Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Ellena. Thank you so much for tuning in. So today I thought I would do my Dear Younger Self series video. I haven't done one in a long time, but I feel like it's necessary, you know? I feel like there's some sort of awakening that I kind of thought of, like, and I was like, once I kind of thought about it, I couldn't really unthink about it. So again, I'm not a psychologist. I am not a doctor in anything. This is just my perspective. If it resonates with you, that's great. If it's not, if it doesn't, then don't force it to. This is really about those who have grown up in a very codependent type of enmeshed relationship with their parents, or like the mom in particular. Mostly like a mother and daughter dynamic where you become, because the mother, let's say, is emotionally immature and hasn't been able to process their emotions in a healthy way, or have not really figured out what's going on. I feel like sometimes if you grew up in a dynamic where you have a mother who basically relied on the child to be their emotional support and emotional regulator and sounding board and all of that, how damaging and how traumatic that is. Because for the daughter ends up being neglected, because the daughter ends up not having a childhood of joy and fun and all that, because they have now been placed under the role of being almost like a caregiver, a therapist, you know, like the shoulder to cry on when the kid is supposed to be kind of living and learning how to regulate, not regulate by themselves, but like learning how to regulate their own emotions and navigating their own world, and having guidance to do that. So like their needs are not met. Okay, so keeping this in mind, like everybody's relationship is different, but like if you have ever felt like you have kind of fallen into the role of constantly being that supporting role for someone, especially female relationships, female friendships, that is might be, and doesn't have to be, but it might be linked to your childhood and growing up in the dynamic you have with your mother. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you have been programmed at such a young age to learn to neglect yourself and to be the supporting role for someone else. You are basically focusing on all your attention on someone to make them feel seen and heard, and cared for. But you yourself don't have that in return, so you grow up feeling unseen, unheard, a side character in people's lives, somebody who is like invisible and only there for someone else, like an extension of somebody else's life. Like it's like you feel like you don't really have your own identity, which is quite like earth shattering, you know, like if you think about it. So I wouldn't be surprised if many of you dissociated during that time, because it's like you didn't really form your identity. You didn't know who you are because you were so focused and programmed to focus your attention on being the supporting role of someone who is incredibly emotionally immature. And you didn't have time to develop your own neurological pathways to nurture yourself and your own identity, right? So with that being said, where am I going with this? I want people to understand that how that might reflect in your reality now as an adult, okay? Again, not a psychologist, just sharing my perspective. And so I find like if you had this deep program, you may not even be aware of it, but you've probably always been around or always were attracted to very deeply emotionally immature or wounded females or women, or those who identify as female, right? Like, or, you know, like, it's like you were attracted to them not because you wanted to be, but because you were programmed to constantly be that nurturing, supportive role. So you might have found yourself in a lot of circumstances or a lot of friendships and partnerships or whatever, where you were never seen, never heard, and you were always surrounded by women who never wanted to step up and heal, or always wanted to vent but never actually do anything about it. Or you always were around highly traumatized women. And I'm not saying that there's any, like, you know, like, there's nothing wrong with being a supporting role for some people sometimes, you know. The earth is hard to be on. It's really difficult to navigate this planet, and I truly don't believe we were supposed to be navigating it alone. However, I do feel like if we are not conscious about these repeating patterns that appear in our lives, it can really cause damage and perpetuate a cycle that's not serving us. It's not good for us. Because what is a life if you're just constantly being invisible and you're just there for people who are traumatized and who don't want to do the work? You know, there's a difference between being around people who are venting and trying to figure out how to get better, versus people who are just venting and not caring enough to step up and heal, or to get away from situations that are toxic or unhealthy. It's just like, you are not someone to just absorb all that. You have your own life, you have your own future, you have your own dreams and goals. And if you are constantly enmeshed in that, you might find that that has been all of the types of people that you've attracted. You know, it doesn't mean it's every single person, but I feel like it could have really messed up your perspective on the types of people who are there for you. You know, when you constantly have that coming into your reality and you don't really know what it is. It's not until like several times this keeps happening to you where you start asking, because, you know, sometimes I would ask and be like, why do I always meet these people that are like in deep need of healing? And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like, there needs to be some balance where I get to meet some people who don't need that and who just, I don't know, bring joy and laughter in my life rather than just needing a therapist all the time. And it is because it's such a deeply ingrained program that I didn't have a name for it. I didn't know what it was. And it was not until several years this pattern has happened where I had enough. And I said to Spirit, I don't know how to articulate what this program is that I see, but it needs to stop. It needs to stop. And I deserve to have friendships that are of equal balance, equal reciprocity. People who are self-aware enough to kind of evolve and grow and look within. And who want to grow and look within. You know, like, it's just something where I just felt like this needs to stop, because I don't want to constantly have that frequency and vibration of being unseen and unheard and invisible and a side character in people's lives. That's not fair to me. And I remember saying it and just letting God help me clear these contracts, clear these programs in my field that I was just done from. And again, it's not because I'm not compassionate. It's not because I have no empathy for people who are going through trying times, because we all go through trying times, right? There's a difference between going through trying times and like figuring something else, figuring it out, holding space for people is okay too. Sometimes you don't need to figure stuff out, but if it's a consistent thing and it constantly happens to you, I strongly implore you to look at your relationships on your mother's side. If it's constant, if you're constantly attracting women that are like that. And I think like what I'm trying to say too is that, yeah, that also, it leads to vibrations in your field where it's like nobody really hears you. Nobody really sees you. Nobody really respects or appreciates you other than the fact that they only respect you if you're paying attention to them. All of them. And it's just like you're pouring your energy out into other people. And it could also stem from feeling a sense, because you've been so neglected as a child, maybe that was the only way that you felt connection to your mom, is if you're listening to her in her vents and her problems, or like you're trying to help solve problems for her. Like, I know it sounds twisted and weird, but like kids, you know, we all just want to be connected and be seen and heard and loved, right? So, and if they never gave you attention that way, and the only attention you ever got was if you paid attention to their problems, you will learn that that would be the only way that you would get validation. You know what I mean? It's the same thing as if, for instance, if you were like this overachiever and you have to be amazing at things because the only time your parents acknowledged you was if you got an A on your report card or whatever. And they didn't talk to you other than that. They never said good job. They never said they were proud of you. So then you end up being this overachiever because you're just trying to work so hard just for that tiny glimpse of validation and being seen by your parents. So there's that. Anyways, there's that. Is there anything else I want to say about this? It's like, so how do we fix this? You have to be aware of it. And you have to be tired of it. And you have to be okay with being seen. And you have to be okay with walking away and not seeking the validation of them. You have to, you know, you can ask your angels and guides to go into your Akashic with the highest and best good of all, with shielding and protection and the violet flame, to clear away programs that have caused you to consistently attract people that are that have kind of put you in that role of supporting character instead of being the main character of your life. So, and then you can ask God and Spirit to help you do that on an energetic field, and you can visualize it as well. And then I always make sure I put new programs in to replace them. So the new programs would be, I attract healthy partners, relationships, friendships, people who reciprocate in a balanced way, people who self-reflect, people who are kind, even if they're not really like deep into spirituality, it doesn't matter. They don't need to be, as long as they are kind and they are, you know, open-hearted, and they, you know, they are aware of things, you know, like that's really important. And then just programs where it's like, I am no longer the side character of my life. I'm like, I am the main character of my life, and I'm going to move accordingly. And I am not here to be the sounding board for someone else who is not willing to grow. I have to focus my energy on me and focus on my own life. And I think that's really important to kind of take note on, because it's easy to fall back into that. And I think, like, for me personally, when I first noticed this repeating pattern, I got really angry and I didn't know what it was. And I remember getting really angry, and I just like stopped opening up to people because that was my way of solving the problem. And like, if they don't know anything about me, if I don't open up to them, they won't open up to me, and then no problem. no problem. But then at the same time, it's like you end up not having anybody to talk to, really. You just have God to talk to, which is fine. But it's like you don't have strong friendships because of that. And so that's not healthy for me, right? Like I'm just like, I can journal as much as I want, but it's like I still need to talk to people. And I should be able to have people in my life where I can share my vulnerabilities to and like know that I'm safe to do so. And it's not fair or right for me to bottle everything inside because people are not able to properly reciprocate, or they don't have the emotional intelligence to do so. It's like, and I told God, I said, like, you know, find me some people, bring me some people that can do that, because I'm not walking this life by myself. It ain't happening. So there's that. So I hope, you know, I hope this message brings insight for somebody out there. I'm sure it does somewhere. And I know it sounds weird, but I'm just like, I hope it doesn't resonate, because I don't want anybody to have ever gone through that BS. Because that is freaking hard. That is freaking hard. And if you haven't gone through that, this message isn't for you. Like, this is hard for those people who have gone through that. Are still going through that. Whew! It's a doozy. It is a doozy. So, but if this helps you at all, I'm glad. I don't usually share that part of my journey like that, but I think it needs to be said, because you can get out of it. If I can get out of it, you can get out of it, you know? Like, it's like you don't have to constantly be surrounded by traumatized people all the time, like needing a therapist. It's like, if I wanted to be a therapist, I would have gone to school for that, and I would have gotten paid big bucks for that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, which, by the way, here's another thing. This is another thing that I noticed too, which really resonated when somebody said this, because I remember saying that. I was like, God, I should have just gone, you know, and been a therapist. I would have made more money doing this. And then this girl that I was working with, because I was like kind of providing insight with my experiences to kind of help her, or like just, you know, and she said, like, well, not everybody can afford going to a therapist, and sometimes there are people like you who are doing your own thing all around, doing all different types of things, walking through life, and you are there to help people. Okay. And then I just realized, I'm like, okay, yeah, that I didn't think about it that way. Sometimes we end up in the strangest places because we carry wisdom to which others could not access because they just simply couldn't afford it. But know that there is a balance, and that when it comes to a point where you feel like there is people who want the therapy, but they don't want to take the action steps to do something about it in their lives, to make it better, that's when you know that your energy is best spent somewhere else. Okay, and even that means pouring into your own cup, or pouring into your friends that, like, you know, need some guidance or whatever. But yeah, so keep that in mind. Anyways, I hope this video helps you, and I'll talk to you later. Okay, bye.